about it right now, everything's okay. No matter where you find yourself, no matter what kind of stuff is going on in your life, underneath it all, everything's actually all right. You're okay. You have more power than you might be giving yourself credit for. If you have something that's going on in your life right now that's challenging or painful, it's just a reminder to take a little bit better care of yourself. Because you're worth it. You can have this feeling anytime you choose.
Alright, YouTube. I know it's been a while. I haven't recorded much lately. Like 2 years, maybe 3. But a lot of stuff happened. A lot of life changes happened. I took a little break from poker for a little bit, just to kind of clear my mind, and the break took longer than what I thought. Some changes happened in my life. I got married, and great, everything like that, and had to do a lot of sacrifices and everything, and just didn't have the time nor the money to actually kind of do it. I used my bankroll to pay some stuff off, and was just doing me. Really didn't have time for really anything. Was trying to take my time and do some stuff and work on some things for myself as well as my family. And finally kind of got myself into a good place, both financially and mentally. I want to go over a session that happened this past week, and it's been like a week or so since it happened. It's at a new place called Rustler. It's off of kind of 410 Ingram area in San Antonio. It is a club that does have poker. They have custom table games such as AstroBac, they're supposed to represent Baccarat, Buckeye, or Bullseye, they're supposed to represent Blackjack. So it's kind of your adult main event kind of thing like that, close to a casino. Close to the casino as you're gonna get without going there. And everything's legal. But it's interesting. I highly recommend. The place is very nice, very beautiful. This month, the rest of the month, I don't know when this is coming out, to be honest, but the rest of the month they're having free play. So you're not getting charged for anything. You just come in, pay your daily fee, which is that all you gotta pay. So that's a good thing. You're able to come and play for free, both the tables and everything like that. So let's go over the tournament, as well as maybe I don't know if I'm gonna make it to 2 vlogs or just 1, but afterwards it will be the cash game. So let's go.
All right, let's get to it. Very first hand of the tournament. It's crazy. And it should have told me exactly how this tournament was going to be. There's really nothing much to say. I limped in with 3-7 of spades. It goes around to middle position, who ends up putting in a raise. Goes to the button, who ends up playing around and going all in. Of course, everybody folds, except for middle position. She goes ahead, looks at him, and makes the call. And can't believe it. Very first hand, aces versus kings all in. It's going to be one crazy night. Alright, it's early in the tournament, and the blinds are 100, 200. It folds around to the button, who ends up making it 600. Small blind flows. I'm in the big blind and look down at 4-5 suited. I go ahead and make the call, and so does the limpers. So now we're 4 ways to a flop. Flop comes 8-7-6 with 2 diamonds. Everybody checks to the button, who ends up in another 600. I'll go ahead and check raise to 2,500. I think it's a little too small for at this point. Looking back, I should have made it a little bit bigger. I'm not sure what, maybe 5K, I'm not sure. But as played, I made it too small, and so which under the gun and the button ends up calling. So now we're 3 ways to a turn, which comes to 10 of clubs. Everybody checks to the button, who ends up betting 3,500. I'll go ahead and make the call, thinking what else worse is gonna call me if I check raise at this point. And under the gun folds, so we're heads up to a river, which comes to 8 of clubs. I go ahead and check to the button, who ends up bidding 5K. I go ahead and just make the call, kind of reluctantly, and sure enough, he ends up showing 6-9 offsuit for the bigger straight. I don't know if I could have folded for it or not, but it is what it is. It's still early in the tournament. Still got some chips. Alright, we're on to the next hand. I lost a few pots, so I ended up doing a rebuy and add-on. $20 got me 15K, so right now my stack's at 25,800. The blinds are 200, 400 with a 400 big blind ante. Folds around to me to the small blind, and I'm looking down at ace 5 of diamonds. I'll go ahead and raise it up to 1,500, and the big blind go ahead and makes a call. Heads up to a flop, which comes 3, 2, 10 rainbow. I'll go ahead and c-bet to 3,000, and the big blind go ahead and make the call. Turn is a 9 of spades. I check, the big blind bets 3,500. I go ahead and snap call. I really think he doesn't have anything. This opponent in particular tries to bluff a little bit more than what he's supposed to, as well as overvalue his hands. Ace highs, king highs, pair threes, something like that. But as played, I'll go ahead and make the call. And we're off to see a river, comes to 10 of clubs. I check, the big blind starts to eye my stack. I show him what I have, don't say anything. I don't tell him how much I have, but I'll go ahead and show him. In my opinion, telling your opponent how much you have in your stack, for some reason, I think that's just too much information for them to get. So I just go ahead and eye him stack. There's no rule saying I have to tell him exactly what I have if I'm not all in. After looking at my stack, big blind goes ahead and shoves all in, cover me. I tank for a while. Again, this particular opponent ends up overvaluing hands, certain hands that he has. So I go ahead and make the call. He says, you have any pair, you're good. I don't have a pair, and he ends up showing queen 6 offsuit. I end up winning with the ace high. Something just didn't feel right, so that's why I made the call. End up working out this time, but most of the time I end up losing the hand. Alright, moving along to the next hand. Folds around to the button, who makes it 1,500. I'm in the big blind with queen 5 offsuit. I go ahead and elect to defend. Just like that, we're heads up to a flop of 5-9 king with 2 spades. I end up checking to the pre-flop raiser. He ends up checking it back. The turn is a 6 of spades. Having floor 2 of plus, I'll go ahead and bet 2K. I have a little fun with him, trying to say I'm just keeping him in. He ends up making a call. Before the river comes out, I end up betting 5K in the dark. The river is a 9 of hearts. He thinks about it and everything like that, and he ends up making a fold. Of course, I don't show. I'm just having a little fun with Button. He ends up being a good friend of mine. Alright, it's the very next shuffle. Blinds are still 200, 400. Still 5-handed. Early position limps. Folds around to me in the small blind. I look down at queen 2 of diamonds. I'll go ahead and raise to 1,600. Thinking it's a little too small. Thinking I should have made at least 2K in maybe 2,500, being out of position, especially with this mediocre hand. But as played, I make it 1,600. The big blind folds and their position calls. We're heads up to a flop of 7, 8, 3 with 1 diamond. I end up checking, being out of position. As expected, villain goes ahead and bets 1,500. A little small, so about half pot. I'll go ahead and make the call. Turn is a queen of spades. I end up checking to their position again, and he ends up shoving all in. I already thought in my head that if any queen comes around or if a diamond comes out on the turn, I'm going to go ahead and call whatever bet he has. That includes shoving all in, but I'll go ahead and still make the call. I flip over my hand immediately. The river ends up being a 3 of clubs. Now villain doesn't show his hand. Should have made him flip it over. I'm guessing he was just trying to do a bluff. Nobody said anything either, so I just let it go. Kind of was in the moment. But granted, I know he should have flipped over his hand. So the night's been going on. Kind of been on a winning tilt. I've been calling a lot of spectacular hands that I should have folded. Thinking I was running like God, and I wasn't. At this point, I end up losing a big hand with Jack 3 of hearts. I don't know where the footage is at, and just lost all my chips and had to rebuy. At this point, it was playing stupid. Spun it back up in a little bit, so let's go. Let's see if I can correct some stuff. Right, the very next hand we're going to go over. We are 7-handed now. Blinds are 300, 600, 600 big blind ante. I am under the gun with the beautiful king, queen of spades. I'll go ahead and raise up to 1800, and only the small blind ends up making the call. So we're heads up to a flop of queen, 7 deuce, rainbow. Small blind checks, and I see bet to 2500. Trying to just keep him in, get some value for my queen with some backdoor potentials. And the small blind ends up making a call. So we're off to a turn, which comes a 4 spades. Small blind checks. I think I'm making a mistake here by betting. I should have checked with top pair plus a backdoor spade draw, but as played, I went ahead and bet 7,800, and the small blind ends up folding. So we end up picking up a small little pot, but again, I think I misplayed this hand. All right, moving on to the next fun hand. The blinds are going to be 300, 600 with a 600 big blind ante. We're all just talking, having fun and everything with the table. It's good vibes. So one limper in front of me folds around to me in the big blind. I end up having 6-9 offsuit. I'll go ahead and check my option, and we're heads up to a flop of ace 2-3 with 2 spades. End up going check. Turn is a 3 of clubs. I end up bleeding out for 1500, thinking that if he had an ace, he probably would have raised it ahead of time, and he ends up making the call. The river is a 3 of hearts. I end up bleeding out for 4500. I just kind of start to shake, and we're having a little fun. I have a natural shake when it comes to me. People, misconstrued it or as excitement or nervousness or whatever case it be. It's just from my military experiences. So I end up just having a natural shake. Anyways, he ends up folding and showing queen 6 offsuit. Of course, I have to show my bluff. Just having a little fun with everybody, trying to keep it lighthearted. At the same time, still trying to play a decent game. Alright, so the next hand of note we're going to go over. Blinds are 400, 800 with an 800 big blind ante. There's a middle position that limps, folds to me in the big blind with king 10 offsuit. I'll go ahead and raise it up to 3,800, being out position. And he still doesn't care, he goes ahead and makes a call. So, heads up to a flop of 9-4-10 rainbow. I end up c-betting to 5k, and middle position ends up snap shoving. Don't think I can go anywhere with top paired second kicker, so go ahead and make the call, and he turns over queen 10 offsuit. So we're in good shape, but we're off to the races. Turn ends up being a 10 of hearts, and the river ends up being a 7 of hearts. So we end up holding. Let's go. All right, the very next hand of note that we're gonna go over is gonna start kind of mid hand. The blinds are 500, 1000 with a 1000 big blind ante. There's a limp from early position, ends up folding around to me in the cutoff with queen 9 of clubs. I'll go ahead and raise this to 45, but it makes a call, but the small blind has other plans. He ends up shoving all in for 22,400. Big blind folds, early position ends up re-shoving for less. Folds around to me, I end up tanking for a little bit. Small blind has been kind of loose, and he's one of the ones I end up picking off and just having different hands when I pick them off. I end up making the call, and the button ends up folding. So there's a 3-way all in. Small blind ends up showing pocket jacks. Early position ends up having king 10 suited, and we're off to the races. And what about the flop coming queen deuce? Turn ends up being a safe card. It ends up being a 5 of diamonds. Now all we need is just to fade any jack on the river. Come on, dealer, don't do this to me. This would be a nice pot for me. Don't do this to me. And he ends up doing it to me. Really? Really? Alright. I'm trying to get some peace and quiet or some sort of light. Anyways. Alright. So, did okay. The first time I'm kind of really vlogging back, and I don't know. I shouldn't have called that one hand. I don't know why. It was just that one guy kind of guessed me. I don't know why I called that. Just it was a stupid call with that jack 3 of hearts. I should have folded. Other than that, then yeah, played well, played okay.
Lost that one flip with Queen 9 clubs. Maybe that should have been a fold. Actually, that should have kind of been a fold, but I was feeling it. You know, sometimes you gotta call what you're feeling. I was correct. Just got unlucky on the river. It happens. So right now I did some add-ons, so a total of $100 in, 120 in, and we'll see what happens with the payout. But overall, I think I'm doing okay. I need to tighten down a little bit more. It's taking me a little bit to get the notes down. I haven't vlogged in forever and a day, but yeah, I'm having fun. Hopefully you get to pay some cash afterwards and see what happens. But until then, yeah, we'll continue on and see what happens. Let's go.
All right, next hand of notes that we can go over. We're all having a good time, just kind of feeling the vibe and having a good time with everybody else. The blinds are 1,000, 2,000 with a 2,000 big blind ante. There's a middle position limp. The guy next to me ends up looking at me like I'm gonna raise or anything like that. I'm playing with chips, but he ends up looking at me thinking I'm gonna raise. He ends up folding, and I make the call and I cut off with queen deuce of diamonds. But the button ends up having different ideas and just make it friendly. Button raises to 5K. Folds around to the middle position, who ends up calling. I joke around and tell him I'm priced in now. Once again, having a good time with everybody. And so we're 3 ways to a flop of 2, 10, 6 rainbow. Middle position ends up leading for 7,000. I'll go ahead and make the call, having flopped a pair and some backdoor potentials. But the button has other ideas. He ends up 3-betting to 16,000. Middle position ends up folding. This is the guy that ended up losing all my chips to Jack 3 of hearts. So kind of a little tilted towards him. I go ahead and make it the call. Bad call, but I end up making it. So heads up to a turn, which is a 3 of hearts. I go ahead and check, and the button ends up shoving all in. I go ahead and tank, thinking he's just trying to make a move and thinking of what would shove here. I mean, it's a rainbow board. I don't think he's gonna do this any light. He either literally has air or pair of 10s with a good kicker. So I end up tanking for a little bit and end up making the fold. So we lose some chips here when I should have folded when he 3-betted. All right, we made final table. How about that? The blinds are 1,500, 3,000, 3,000 big blind ante. I'm in early position. I go ahead and raise to 10K with pocket 8s. Folds around to the big blind, who ends up calling. So we're heads up to a flop of a beautiful Jack Deuce 8. Let's go. And even better, the big blind ends up leading for 10K. I go ahead and make the smooth call, trying to keep him in, and the turn is another deuce. And we make a full house. And even better news, the big blind ends up shoving all in. Of course, I snap call and ends up showing pocket 10s. So all we need to do is just fade another 10 and it breaks out. So we hold and we end up doubling up here. Good start to final table. Let's go. All right, next hand of notes, just kind of a little fun that we're having, kind of gives you the vibe of what's going on. Me and one of my friends have going back and forth, a little banter. He ends up just smooth calling a small blind. I end up looking down on 4-6 of clubs. I go ahead and just check my options. And once again, we're kind of going back and forth and everything. And I'll just go ahead and let it play out so you can see what's going on.
Why not?
Because I'm telling you right now,
He's a good player.
that's all me.
How is that all you when that's all me?
That's not you. Don't.
I have a deuce.
You have a deuce. I have a few things.
Ah, get in there one time. Get in there one time.
All right, the next hand of note we're going to go over. The blinds are 2,000, 4,000, 4,000 big blind ante. There's a middle position raised to 8K. The player right next to him ends up calling. I'm on the button and look down at King Jack suited. A beautiful hand, deserves a little protection, so I end up 3-betting to 33K. Even with a raise and a call, I believe this is a hand that you can 3-bet or shove all in. Ends up phoning around to the razor middle position, who ends up shoving all in for 69,000. Late position ends up folding. I'll go ahead and tank for a little bit, and I end up making a call. Middle position ends up flipping over ace queen offsuit. I know it's a little loose, but I end up making a call. Either way, as is, we're off to the races. Flop comes out 6, 8, 10 with 1 spade. All right, there's a prayer and a hope. The turn ends up being my hope of a 3 of spades. Dealer, you already screwed me one time last time. Can you please get me there on the river? And ends up being a 5 of spades. We end up making our flush and winning the pot. Again, a little loose, given the dynamics being on final table. That should have been a fold when he shoved all in, but trying to learn from my mistakes and get better later on. All right, that brings us to this fun hand right here. The blinds are 3,000, 6,000 with a 6,000 big blind ante. Ends up folding to the small blind, who raises up to 12K. I go ahead and defend my big blind with jack deuce of hearts. So heads up to a flop of 4, 3, 5, 2 hearts. Pretty good flop for me, having open-ended straight draw and a flush draw. Dealer must love me some way somehow. Anyways, the small blind ends up bleeding for 15K. I'm not going anywhere with all my potential, so I'll go ahead and make the call. Turn is a 5 of diamonds. We end up going check check on the turn. So looking for some help, dealer. Please get me there. And sure enough, he does. It is the ace of hearts. Let's go. Not only that, the small blind ends up over betting to 100,000. I snap shove all in. I don't know why I snap shoved all in. I should have at least thought about it, or at least paused for a little bit to shove all in, but I was too excited that I hit my flush. Small blind ends up attacking for a little bit. He ends up saying some things, thinking that it's got to be a cooler, so that even makes me feel better about my hand, thinking he has a smaller flush or a straight. Either way, he ends up tanking for a while and makes a call. I turn over my flush proudly, and he says he has a bolt. He ends up showing 4 or 5 of clubs. Come on, man. And just like that, we are out the tournament. It was a fun tournament. Had a great time with everybody. I'm going to go ahead and make this into 2 vlogs. The next vlog is going to be the cash game that happened afterwards. Hope you enjoy the hands. If you like the video, please like, subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell. Leave a comment. Let me know what I could improve, or what you see, or anything like that. Always trying to learn, always trying to improve. But until next time, I hope you enjoy the hands.